Housing availability and affordability is an issue faced by most cities in our region. How will you address this issue if elected? And first, we're going to start with Sherilyn. Sherilyn Town for seat 5. Go ahead, please.
I will address this issue head on, as it is one of the major issues that I believe our community is facing. That there was really not a homeless crisis in our county for multiple years, and we were definitely grateful for that. However, now there has been quite the crisis. There's a lot of homeless people on the streets. There's not enough places to house them, and the housing is just unaffordable and out of their reach, even for 2-income families. So I would say that we need to head on with that crisis and maybe work with developers in creating affordable housing that residents can afford to purchase and rent. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sherilyn. Next up would be Joe Bodman for seat 5. Go ahead. And go ahead and unmute.
Sorry. With all my kids here and the cost of housing, my kids have been struggling. They love the city of Post Falls. They've been here. They've grown up here. And my daughter right now and her husband are trying to find it. We got to figure out a way for affordable housing for the young kids that grow up in Post Falls and want to stay in Post Falls. What the answer is to that, I'm not sure, because the city council has no control over what the apartment complexes charge and what the housing is. But we really need to find the answer to keep our kids home where they belong. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Randy Westland for seat 5. Go ahead, please.
Sure. I think the first thing we have to recognize is that the housing crisis is a national issue. It's not just something that affects our area, that there's an undersupply of housing nationally. And so we could build housing all day long, and it's not going to move the needle substantially if we just start throwing up apartment buildings everywhere. And in the process, we risk destroying the community that we all love so much. Having said that, I think there are some things we can do to address it. One of them is thinking about building starter homes for family, because we know that we all value family. We want families to be able to thrive here. And it should be possible to raise a family on a single income. And then the problems with that is, with the housing that you set up now, a lot of it is, it's high density apartment buildings, or you've got luxury condos going up, or just sprawling suburbs over the prairie. And I don't think that really supports young families. I think starter homes, which I don't think we've really built since the 40s in the country. If you think about the downtown areas, like the historical areas of Post Falls and Coeur d'Alene, the housing from the 40s, say, it was built on smaller lots. Maybe it's 900 square feet instead of being 1,500 square feet or 2,000 or 2,500, like most of the homes being built today. So I think if we encourage building starter homes, and we encourage really any sort of homes that allow people to be building equity in it, not so much renting and that rent money is leaving the state and going to some investment fund, but homes where people can buy and start building equity. And maybe that looks like smaller homes on a shared lot, and maybe that looks like starter homes, but that would be a way to get people in. And then I think local businesses can play a role in this as well, whether that's contributing to the down payment that their employees need to buy a house. I've seen really interesting proposals for that, where the employer can put in a chunk of cash, and then when the house is sold, the employer could get that, that chunk of cash back. So they're kind of tying up that equity in order to gain a really good employee. So I think there's a lot of good ideas out there, and if we have this vision for where we want to go, I think we can sort it out.
All right, thank you. Next is James Stephenson for seat number 1. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a good question. I think this is something the city is looking at, and I know this has come through planning and zoning. Kind of what Randy said, this is not just our problem, this is a national problem, but there are certain things that we can do and try to solve this issue. I know there has been certain things at the workshops at the Cooney County level talking about cottage homes, tiny homes. There's even workforce housing communities around here that they're trying to build out. But we really have to look at this as a holistic thing and figure out what does actually affordability mean to everybody. That word keeps coming up, and what does that really mean? I think we have to define that and figure out how we can build these houses. Starter homes would be a good start, but what is really a starter home? I think this is something that the community, the county as a whole, and with every city, because with Post Falls, you got people moving here to Post Falls, to Coeur d'Alene. And, I saw this firsthand. We bought our first house in 2012. And then when we bought another house 2 years ago, while we made a lot of money on the equity, we wouldn't have been able to buy this house without the equity we did. So there's a lot of people moving here that just can't afford here, and then even apartments. So we're kind of a victim of our own growth here. So that's why we got to control the growth, try to understand what affordability is, and then define that. Are tiny homes the solution? Are cottage homes or starter homes? We really have to talk together as a community to figure out what the solution is long-term for affordability, so we can allow people, our children and their children's children, to be able to buy homes when they get to that point. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And next we have Samantha Stigliter for seat 1. Go ahead.
Hi, yeah, of course, housing is always a huge issue. And like it was said, this is really a national issue. It's not just Kootenai County, but Post Falls does a lot of things better than the national average. So I think that this is a solution that we can definitely find. Talking about affordability, this is something that you see come through planning and zoning and city council. Often developers cite this as a reason that we should vote yes on high density developments, whether those developments be the apartment complexes that we see going vertical, or like these other proposals that are being made by city staff, which are tiny homes or workforce housing, or like homeless sort of initiatives. It's still all high density, no matter which way you spread the housing. So that's really something that we want to consider. Is that the community that we want? Is that what our identity is here? And it's nice to try and solve a problem from the front end, but I think we also need to talk about what we can do to help the residents of Post Falls have incomes that can afford the houses that we have available here. And that means also really talking about not just the small businesses that are here, but talking about larger national corporations that might want to make a home in Post Falls, that offer wages and salaries that allow the citizens to have the money to buy these houses that we have. So that's something that City Council can definitely help encourage and vote yes on, and talk to city staff about making happen. It's one thing to say just build affordable housing, and it's one thing when the developer comes in and says that the reason we should vote yes on higher density is to allow more people to live here. But they're not held accountable on that. So even on McGuire, we do have twin homes going in and like cottage homes that were approved. But if you go to those websites for those developers, you'll see that on there it actually is marketed towards investors. So we do need some accountability in the building that's going on in Post Falls. When they say that they're doing something for the community, they need to be held accountable for that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And then last we have Joe Malloy for seat 3. Go ahead.
Thank you much. The reason this issue is so tricky is because we have two opposing issues, actually. They're related but different in that many times I've gotten emails or phone calls from people saying we have to stop the growth because the people are moving in from California and, you know, clogging up the roads and increasing crime and driving the cost of housing up. That's two different problems. You know, the people moving here is creating more traffic and so forth. Not having enough homes for everybody that wants to be here is what's driving the price up. So if we don't build additional housing, then the price will just keep going up and up and up and up until only the richest of those who want to move here can afford to, and those that have been here for a long time basically get priced out. It is a nationwide issue with the housing issues, but you know, North Idaho specifically, I think is unique in that 5 years ago we were in the bottom third of affordability, and now we're in the top third of unaffordability, I guess we could call it. So we have been really focused on trying to find ways to increase more affordable housing without, as alternatives to 3-story walk-up apartments. We passed a cottage home zoning code. We're working on a tiny home zoning code, so smaller homes and smaller lots that allow for some equity opportunities. Also, too, as Samantha said, the economic development is a key portion of this. We've created the technology mix zone, trying to attract some more high-paying tech jobs. We've got the new Pleasant View Urban Renewal District that had some very strong proponents that have either moved their businesses in or expanded the businesses that were currently there. So being able to help with the income side of things is important also. And as far as 3-story walk-up apartments, you know, we've about 5 years ago, Post Falls was roughly 25% multifamily. Now it's roughly 28. So it's gone up a little bit. But that also tells you how many single-family houses have been built in Post Falls in the meantime. So I think trying to maintain that balance is also pretty important. And my time's up. So thank you.